The Peace Integration Summit CUMIPAZ 2015, held in Santiago, Chile, from November 3rd to the 7th, revolved around three main topics: the judicial, educational, and the diplomatic, political, and parliamentary session. Issues that for the Global Embassy of Activists for Peace are fundamental pillars in the construction and strengthening of peace and the happiness of the integral human being and of the nations.
Justice for peace at the national level reinforces the obligation of states to prevent, criminalize, investigate, and prosecute the crime of genocide and any serious violation of human rights, among other international crimes. The foundation of the prevention is education. Education based on respect for the other is the main non-violent tool to prevent genocidal barbarism. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias.
De la Comisión por la Integración de la Paz.
The judicial session was formally established with the intervention of the Executive President of the GEAP, and the lecture titled Prevention of Genocide, the UN and the International Criminal Court in the Construction of Justice for Peace. The purpose of this session was to review, promote, and propose the updating and amendment of the Convention for the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide of the Rome Statute and other related regulations to extend protection to other human groups excluded from the criminalization of genocide, the democratization of the UN Security Council, the International Criminal Court, the strengthening of the Office of the Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, and the creation of an international network that promotes such proposals at all levels.
Why talk about happiness in a summit? We all know that there can be no happiness if every citizen of the world does not have access to a prompt and effective justice. We know that there will only be happiness if each of the citizens of the world has access to a comprehensive education based on ethical, moral, and spiritual principles, directed to the heart, to the spirit, and the body of a person. And we know that we can only achieve happiness if there are effective policies oriented towards the welfare of the human being, but in harmony with Mother Earth.
Willing to work towards this goal, judges, magistrates, prosecutors, and presidents of the high courts of Latin American countries, together with specialists in criminal law, international criminal law, and human rights, discussed, debated, and analyzed during the first day of sessions the proposals presented by the GEAP in order to make contributions to the document containing the Declaration CUMIPAZ 2015 that will set the course of work to be carried out during 2016 in order to fulfill the objectives indicated in the call.
When we speak of peace, of ideas for humanity, we are thinking not of the present, but of the future. That the time is now. The time is yours today. The generations to come will ask for and observe what your contribution has been in this matter.
The participation of the speakers took place in 3 work tables, in which speakers presented on the strengths and weaknesses of the Rome Statute as an instrument of universal justice, ethnicide, politicized, democratization of the UN Security Council, jurisprudence and independence, and institutional autonomy.
Discrimination is the base of genocide. Conducts of exclusiveness, of discrimination, should not be allowed because there is where we find basis for the commission of the crime of genocide to be produced.
Since we are in the world, implemented or exercising criminal law with the principle of legality, it is necessary to include some aspects that could be considered as a crime of genocide.
Se ha dejado por fuera
The attack against the culture
contra la cultura
of a human group and the process of acculturation
el proceso de aculturación
has been left out.
ese concepto
That concept has been in an indeterminate state when confronted with the crime of genocide.
de genocidio.
Al incluir
By including in our constitutional text that human dignity is the guiding axis of all public activity, it forces us to respect dignity, to protect dignity, to promote dignity of the people, but in a very preponderant way. It is up to us judges to make sure that constitutional mandate is fulfilled.
se cumpla.
Dignity cannot be subject to limits, which is the reason for the difference of human dignity from the Constitution point of view and fundamental rights. Fundamental rights are not absolute. They allow reasonable limits according to the principle of reservation of law. But dignity is intangible. Dignity cannot be touched.
The tridimensionality approach to law, politics, and diplomacy mark the urgency of action on issues such as society, applicable regulations, strengthening of the courts, ethics and morals of those who apply justice.
Given the loss of prestige, the United Nations has been subject to criticism from the international community regarding its effectiveness. These are mainly directed toward the Security Council, which has a model that no longer represents the reality of the world, nor the opinion of most member states of the organization.
The political groups were excluded from the groups, which could be prosecuted and defined as genocide. All the doctrine, all the authors coincide in assigning the fundamental reason for this restrictive definition of genocide to the desire to summon all nucleated nations in the United Nations organization.
Laws, treaties, conventions, and protocols have even defined and prohibited from war crimes the use of toxic gas and criminal weapons, but none have put in place a system which provides the responsible individuals criminal offenses with the most serious violations of international humanitarian law until the adoption of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court in 1998.
Many nations are recognizing, as such, the first genocide perpetrated in which Hitler said, "We can go ahead with Judaism because who remembers the Armenians?" And that is why 80 years of international inactivity by the legal, political, and diplomatic or educational community of the racial laws of 1935 are also, sadly, celebrated.
The experts contributed their input in the construction of the conclusive document of the judicial session that was part of the final declaration of CUMIPAZ 2015.
Digno que nos acordemos.
It is worthy that we remember the act of those people who were the victims of all those institutions that we have talked about and discussed, of genocide, of an inconclusive statute, of a court that cannot do everything, but we have victims of those.
Víctimas de aquellos.
We have to make all the effort for the trial, for the sanction of those who are responsible, for acquittal of those who are not, which there are also some, and this is the guarantee of no repetition.
The responsibility of the state in human development. The countries receiving of migrants are the countries that have developed the most, and they have an international responsibility to assist developing countries. Saramago said at that time, Europe would be invaded by thousands of hungry people they provoke, and today we are seeing it. It seemed a prophecy.
Once we have a community treaty, a vertical treaty that defines 15 crimes against Central America that is hurting us and undermining our democracy that has cost us so much.
Judicial session. The judicial session agreed that the crime of genocide requires the principle of legality, the work of the agencies responsible for prosecution, and education as a foundation for prevention.